Hi, I'm Patrick Dunnican. At Gibbons, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the complex issues that affect their lives. That's why we're proud to support the programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., New Jersey Resources, NJM, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and more, with a focus on safety and financial stability. NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 college savings plan. Turn a dream into a degree. International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. And by the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by Politicker NJ.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this.
You
got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
We're in Newark, New Jersey at the North Ward Center, speaking with the Senate President, Steve Sweeney. That's around Thanksgiving time. It's the holidays. Is the reason to be festive in and around the State House these days?
There's not a lot to cheer about right now, Steve. We got a lot of serious issues we have to deal with. You know, Transportation Trust Fund, we have pension issues and many, many others. Atlantic City's in free fall. You know, and just really trying to start to get the state back in a direction where we can put people back to work.
Yeah. By the way, we're at an event in which the Senate President was giving an award to his colleague on the Republican side of the aisle, Senator Kevin O'Toole. So that's why you see a lot of folks behind us. Let's take a couple of issues one at a time. The Transportation Trust Fund. What is the sticking point here, Senator? Why can't we move forward and find a stable source of funding for roads and bridges, which everyone acknowledges are crumbling?
Steve, we can. The sticking point right now is the Speaker and I are pretty close. In fact, I could say we're almost in agreement. You know, small details. We really do believe we need a $2 billion plan. So, one, we're in the right place. We need the governor to be in the same place in order to advance things, because you really can't do it without him. The other problem we have, Steve, is even if we do a $2 billion program, our Department of Transportation barely can put $500–600 million out on the street each year. And our roads are getting worse, not better.
So they're getting worse?
They're getting worse. And you're having more bridges closed because they're structurally deficient, and we're out of money. They just borrowed the last bit of money that was left in the TTF. So
Transportation Trust Fund.
Yes. So we're at a point now where we have to all get in a room, come to an agreement. It's going to cost money. It absolutely is going to cost money. And I do believe when you ask somebody, do you want your taxes raised? The answer is no.
The gas tax, 60% or so? No, they don't want it.
But you know something? People want commutes improved. Steve, polls are very simple. If you get a result by the way you ask a question. People do want their commutes improved. Anybody that travels the Turnpike knows what investment in transportation can be. Look, whatever we figure out, we'll constitutionally dedicate so at least the people know that every single penny will go for the purpose it's being raised, not to run this department or that department, because people they have a right to be skeptical. They really do. But we can't ignore our roads. Our economy's struggling from it, Steve. Businesses look long-term when they're looking to move to a place. Well, if you don't have an investment lined up, if you don't have a plan for 10 years, that's what businesses do. They're not coming. We're a location state. We need to be able to move people and product. So that's why we need a TTF so badly.
Last question on this. By the way, we're with Senate President Steve Sweeney in Newark, New Jersey. A big crowd behind us. The senator just gave an award to his Republican colleague, Kevin O'Toole. Quick question on this. The governor out on the presidential campaign trail as we speak right now, don't know how things are going to play out. Right now he says absolutely not. He's not going to agree to any new tax. I believe, or do you believe that includes the gas tax? Has he told you that?
Listen. When he says something, I believe it, but he's also said he's open to fixing the TTF. And like I said, Steve, no roads are free. When you drive on a municipal road, you go over a municipal bridge, that they're paid with property taxes. That's not even a gas tax. That's paid through bonds that are funded through property taxes. So I believe the governor when he says he's serious about this, but we're also serious. And my Republican friends like John Bramnick say, well, we have to do tax relief. We agree. We want to raise the threshold for retirement income to $100,000. We agree on the estate tax that we need to start to peel it all the way back, but they don't have to be mutually tied. We're going to advance those issues ourselves. We, the Democrats, passed a bill to raise retirement income threshold. Right now, we tax retirement income at $20,000 if you're married. We raised it to $100,000. The governor vetoed it. So when we talk about property tax relief, we're on board with it. We cut business taxes $540 million. We're not afraid to do that. We have to do all these things. And if the Republicans need that for cover to say, if we do this, we're not tying them because they don't need to be tied. But we're going to do tax relief as well as doing these other issues.
Quick question on the pension situation. What are the odds that we're going to be able to resolve the pension crisis in the state right now? How much are we in debt right now?
About $80 billion.
Give or take a few?
Listen, we were on a path to fix it when we did the legislation in 2011. The governor, things got tough. The governor chose not to fund it. We were trying to fund it through a millionaire's tax. He was against that.
You wouldn't fund that. Respectfully, Senator, the millionaire's tax would have brought in how much?
That's $660 million. But what that would have done, Steve, is would have helped us keep up. When we did this benefit reform,
2011.
2011. We did, which was noticed in Wall Street and other places, where you call smoothing, where you when you don't have all the money to make the payment at first, you spread it out over a 7-year period to get to your full payment. What happened to us is we didn't realize the ratable growth that we calculated in to make it happen. We needed 3% ratable growth. We didn't think that was unattainable. That's really the average what was going on in the country, and it didn't happen. So we came up short, and that's why we were looking at other forms to try to plug the shortage. And look, I didn't want to, we said, look, put the millionaire's tax in place until revenues increase and we'll sunset it.
But the governor refused to do it.
He refused to do it. But listen, the workers are paying more, Steve. Bottom line is, people can argue all they, say that the workers are the problem. The workers are paying up to 35% for their health care now because we legislated it. They're paying more for their pensions because we legislated it. And the one piece that we thought we really had was a requirement, because the courts said, if you want to guarantee the payment, you have to write it this way. So we wrote the language exactly the way the courts told us to. And it was in a decision with the teachers back in '06. So we really felt that we were in solid ground, that even if the governor chose not to make the payment, he would be forced to by court. And you saw the courts.
The court said you don't have to.
Yeah, but you know something? 800,000 people, Steve. That's 10% of the people of this state. We have 8 million plus people are actually in a position that they could see their pensions really be significantly reduced. That will be an enormous impact to the economy of this state if we let that happen.
Final question on the pension situation. If it's not resolved for public employees, what do you believe it means for every citizen of this state, be they a public employee or not?
Well, I gotta clear it up a little bit. Municipal, county, police, and fire pensions are fine. They're funded in the 70%.
State employees.
It's state employees and teachers that are really the ones that are at the greatest risk right now. What it means, Steve, is that people that are retired, if we don't have enough money going into the pension, their checks will have to be reduced. After they've been given a promise. If I've taught for 35 years and I was told at the end of the rainbow, this is what I was going to get, and I plan my retirement around that, Steve, we have an obligation to keep that. Talking about, people say, well, what about new reforms and new changes? The teachers were willing to sit with the governor and sat with the governor trying to find new solutions. But you have to honor the old obligation.
Last question, last topic. Victims of Hurricane Sandy as we go into 2016. are suffering, businesses, individuals. What needs to be done for them, and why has government on the state level failed to do what those people are asking for?
Steve, it was mismanaged. It was mishandled. The governor did a phenomenal job getting the funds. You know that, we all praised him for it.
From the federal government.
From the feds. He went down and challenged his own party and got
Republicans in Congress who are not particularly willing.
Exactly. So we all gave him credit for that. But it was the implementation, Steve. It was the refusal to work with local groups, local nonprofits that knew the communities. You were calling an 800 number down in Louisiana someplace who had a horrible track record. The state hires this company, and they're telling people to go into the wrong plans. They're giving people bad information. So at the end of the day, there was just mass confusion around, how do I implement this? How do I get into it? What we should have done is worked within the counties with the nonprofits where people could physically go and sit with someone and say, this is what I have. And somebody could really basically counsel and work through them to make sure their paperwork was in order and they were placed in the right program. You know how many programs there were?
It's confusing.
Oh, it's unbelievably confusing. And to ask homeowners that are dealing with a crisis with their homes the way they were to, well, you're being told, go into this plan. And you find out it's the wrong plan. Now I've been delayed 6 months. Steve, it was mismanaged. We've reorganized. The administration is doing better now. It's been way too long. And it's, 3 years, right? It's going to come up on 3 years pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, it's just passed.
Yeah, it just passed 3 years. And people still aren't in their homes. And I always look at things that, if that was my house, I would expect my government to give me proper information and help me back, not be the problem that I'm not back.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate your time and wish you nothing but the best, particularly your colleagues in the Senate as well as your family in 2016.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks, Beth. Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, the law firm of Gibbons, P.C., New Jersey Resources, NJM, NJ Best, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.